Kathy Logue. These are the leaves we're going to try to use to get beautiful exhibits onto porcelain. When you're selecting the leaves, the most important part is the back, not the front. You want leaves that have a rough texture and you can see the veining as the texture, because that is what is going to form the first print. If you're lucky, this is the type of print you're going to get. You can see the outline of the leaf. You can see all the veining. That doesn't happen very often, but we can adjust as time goes on. First, I'm going to present a few simple pieces and a good way for you to start before you get into something a little more difficult. Okay. Here you can see leaves that are in a design, and they are a variety of sizes. So when you're collecting leaves, they don't have to all be the same size. More important, they have to be in proportion to how you're going to design them. Originally, the piece was stamped with the leaf design, fired, and then color was added in addition to the stems and berries. Ideally, it's best to start with a simple design, and it does make a real nice piece. But remember to enhance the whole piece of porcelain, especially if it's a box. Now, you will ask, what colors do I need to use when I'm stamping? This is plain black. But if you want a different color, like these leaves are done in a dark green, have been done in a dark green, because we really didn't want the black to show up. Notice how many there are. That means you have actually stamped probably that many leaves. Sometimes you can get a second stamping, and this was a first stamping, and without putting more paint on, this was the second. That doesn't always happen. You can't always count on it, but that's what keeps us very interested. On a three-dimensional piece, I had to select a larger leaf. Decide where you're going to place your leaves. Where will they show up best? This one, the color I used was a violet of iron for the printing of the leaf, because that's how I was going to continue to decorate the piece. So, tools. This, I'm afraid, you're going to have to buy. I prefer a roller. Some people can put it on with a brush, but for less than $10, you can use this even if you only have one roller and you have 6 or 8 people that want to do it all at the same time. They can take turns, and it holds up. It will last for years. Then your palette knife. It needs to be one that is strong and that you can scrape your color and put it where you want it. And your color, as I discussed over here, different colors were chosen, but today we'll use black. Toothpaste consistency. I'm sure you've heard that. You don't want it to run. You don't want it too oily. How much do I need is what you're thinking. It depends on how many pieces you think you're going to try to do. If it's a number of small leaves, of course, you're not going to need as much as if they're all big ones. When you first put it on your tile, because I'm using the roller, I need to make sure it is put on wide enough for the roller. And I continue to put more on because we're going to do a number of them, not just one. But because this blade is sharp on the edge and the shape, it's going to help you get it where you want. Okay. And yes, it's messy. Make sure you have plenty of paper towels. Maybe you even want a little alcohol to wash your hands as you go, but that could be the fun. We're putting the paint on the roller, and then I'm going to select leaves, just so that you'll get the main idea of how to get it onto a roller. I can hear that I have ample, but I also see that it is protruding or sticking out from the roller, meaning I have a little more than I want. So I just keep easing off. We'll go back and get that group of leaves. People say, oh, what leaves do I have to use? Any leaf that's pliable and gives you the veining strong on the back. It can be your house plant. It can be a tree. It can be a bush. If you're out in the wild, make sure you don't take anything from a plant that you're not supposed to. I had to go and ask some neighbors if I could use some of their leaves due to the fact presently I don't have the right kind right out my front door. I'm going to grab a little bigger one. You're really lucky if you can have one with a stem, because that's how I'm going to hold it. I don't really want to get the paint all over my hand. I only want to get the paint onto the leaf. And this one doesn't want to lay down, but we're going to get it there. Just an easy push. You might have to do it a second time. And because of the way this leaf is working, you can see when you start how much black or paint is on the piece. When we start to print them, all I do is lay it straight down and I try to just press it once. Yes, it's going to be stronger someplace, but it's stronger that place because of how much paint is there. If you see an area that's sticking up, gently press it down. All right. Okay, we don't have a full leaf, but since you know what one looks like that you've used, don't worry. This would be a first fire. We'll see if I can, I usually love to do oak leaves, but this particular oak leaf does not have what I want on the back. So I'll show you what happens when you don't have the high veining on the underside. You're going to get a whole dark outline, and that's not really what you want, because the color you apply during the second firing is not going to show up the way you want it to. Okay. So practice. That's all I can say is have fun. What size tile do I need? The rolling is simple, the size tile you want. But if you are trying to get it on a big leaf, you can barely print this one on that. So you might be all right, but you need a place, can be newspaper or paper towels or whatever. You're going to need a place that you can use your roller over the whole leaf in order to get the paint on. I certainly would prefer not to try to get it on this size because I would not be able to get the tips the way I want it. But this one, we will do it here anyhow. And I hope with the big one, you can start and see how the roller only gets most of the paint onto the main part. For children, what I usually do with them, and this is definitely going to be too big for this piece, is do a trivet. It makes a nice gift. Again, I'm just gently. I don't find that it is to any advantage to put any real strong push on it. But this would be fine on here for a child to work from. Children love colors, and I have some done by young children. Look for all sorts of things to encourage you. Leaves are not just green. They come in all colors, and especially no matter where you live, if you have the seasons, you're going to see the change in the colors. Do I save my leaf after it's stamped? Quite often, yes, because I'm just like you. I start a half a dozen pieces, and I think I'm going to finish them this week. But you know what you do. You put them away. If you save the leaf, when you go to work on it later, you'll definitely know its true shape and you won't have to guess as much. The plastic bags are great and it works that way. And here is, these are done by 6-year-olds. Their print on the leaf, you can see how much paint they did have on their printing. But because they like dark, bright colors, it still works out great. If I had had that much color on here, it would really overtake the design. So that's something to think about when you're working with them. Make sure your leaves are going to fit your piece. That's why when I said you can work with a number of people with only one roller, it takes you time to decide what ones you're going to use where. Do you want to overlap them? So design is important before you start to stamp them. They might decide, we don't want to look good where you want us to look good. So you might have to adjust what you think is going to work out. On this piece, I have done a number of stampings with the same oak leaf. If by chance, this is what I would prefer on stamping. This one is one of the reasons I said save your leaf, so that you will have a better understanding of what the shape is in the future. Should you end up with too much in one area, but the rest of your print is fine. We are very fortunate now to be able to buy the tips that have the little points on. So all you would need to do is just lift off carefully a couple of places so it doesn't detract like the hard all dark area. Okay, you have this already on your piece and you have painted it. But sometimes this will happen. I have 4 beautiful leaves on there. The prints are nice. I can see the veining, but can anybody tell that there's really 4 leaves? It's because we haven't really made sure there's dark and light. So when you're working with your palette, and I do need to open up the oil. I usually work with an open medium, that old-fashioned recipe. So because I know what the shape would be, it's time for me to really add some strength in certain areas. And right away, you'll have a better understanding. Now, maybe I wouldn't use this particular color, but it does help the viewer see who's on top and who's underneath. Don't forget to add some of your dark other places in the same design in order to carry. So you're starting to realize we do have 4 leaves. Just continue to work with it in a variety of colors till you get what you want. And then you're firing. If you want a background around it, that's going to mean another firing. What if you'd like to add some gold? Okay. Here you can see the leaves. Again, they really don't distinguish who's on top, who's on bottom. We got a little carried away with color. The gold is the liquid bright, and it's been put on a brush with a brush. Keep your gold brushes separate and wash them in the same essence or lavender oil. Don't mix it with your turp or other things. Don't forget, if it's a 3, the piece has more than one area to continue. And this is why it's great with the leaves. When you're stamping, you can easily bend the leaf to the area you want it to be. This one shows off better than the other, but don't forget the inside. This particular book box lid shows you not only the original yellow-red leaf, but gold leaves. Okay. Yes, it gets a little expensive. And yes, I have a roller that I saved just to do the exact same thing, but I never clean it. I do the same thing with the liquid bright on a tile. And that too, I wrap up and save put a little gold essence on there, mix it up with a palette knife again that's only been used for gold. It's in there with my gold brushes. I can get that to a consistency that I can use the roller and I can enhance the design. This time, you don't worry quite as much about how much gold shows. It looks nice when it's a little heavy. Now, you say, okay, I want a background. In order to get that background, you need to start with a piece like this. You have your print on there, you have your design on there. Believe it or not, one of the things I like best when putting a background on, especially if you want it as strong as this one, it's now a third fire, is to paint the background on and not use a brush or a sponge to get the, I know I'm not going to be able to get it completely smooth. And I wanted to be able to hopefully get my background on. And I definitely would not do that color with that leaf, but it shows up. Plain candy wrappers that come off of your mints, whatever the strength is of that particular plastic paper, makes one of the prettiest overall textures you can get. You can't get it with tin foil, you can't get it with wax paper, but candy wrappers. So that helps, and that's how this design on this box lid was gotten, just by pouncing. I discussed that maybe you're happy with more print from your gold leaf, but here's an example of when it's too much. You've lost the whole design with the amount of gold leaves that are on there. We're fortunate in China painting. If I had thought right away, wiping it off with alcohol, letting it dry, I could have started over. But you get in a hurry. We want to do the same idea and hang it up. Here we have a piece. You can see right away the very first printing, the first painting of the leaf. Then the background was done, the same stipple. Using that stipple design, you can usually get the paint on dark and have it not fired off. Quite often when you put the dark colors on, they chip off right away in that first firing. I have had excellent results with using the candy wrappers that they haven't popped off. The gold would be the last fire. And would you like a web? Would you just outline? So go from the simple pieces to the ornate and have fun. do you have any questions, or do we have an answering time for some questions?
If anyone would like to ask Kathy some questions, unmute yourself, please. Thank you. Well, at this time, I want to thank Kathy very much for her offering her talent and her expertise in this wonderful presentation that we have all enjoyed.
Suzanne, do you by any chance feel there's something that maybe should be reviewed?
No, you did an excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you. It was wonderful.